Alright gang, picture this. You're a child of the late 90s and 2000s. You're lugged out of bed, fed, with a tight shirt hole squeezed around your head, and you're driven off to a relentless hellscape of torture. A dull, dull prison the elders have chosen to call grade school. Day in and day out, it's the same old thing. A belligerent stream of barking and brainwashing from on high for hours on end. But between those classes, you grow numb to it all as you notice you're being watched. Everywhere you go, no matter what subject you're learning, you see the face. You're not really sure what to make of it. It frightens you, yet you're intrigued. And after you're released back into the loving arms of your parents, all you can remember is a distinct hue of orange, a wide and never blinking pair of eyes, and a large, toothy mouth to match. But soon you'd come to realize this phantom exists beyond the school grounds. At the bookstore, on the television, in your neighbor's window, the phantom appears, always hounding and never frowning. You're at your wit's end, there's no escape. And when humanity's long gone, the only remnant of proof that we were ever there will be those wide eyes, large smile, and that deadly splash of orange. And that, boys and girls, is how I discovered Garfield. Yes, indeed, Garfield. Created by Jim Davis, premiering in 1976 in the newspaper comics, and originally titled John, the comics starred the titular John Arbuckle, a laid-back yet kinda dorky cartoonist, and his overweight tabby named Garfield. In the following year, Jim would make Garfield the lead character, and the rest is history. The very creation of Garfield stemmed from Davis's longingness to see more feline representation in the comics, as dogs are often the default companions in most of them. And when I was a wee lad, I was proudly a fan of everything Garfield. In time, I'd come to find old clips from the original Garfield and Friends show on YouTube. I'd been gifted 1 or 2 Garfield collection books, and then my dad, well, he frequented the local bagel shop where he'd talk to the staff and the patrons about how much he loved his kids. I was obviously one of them, and he told them how much I loved cartoons and comics. So every once in a while, they'd have a huge stack of old newspapers with the comics intact and say, yeah, take these home to your kid. And now I have this huge box worth of newspaper comics accumulated over the span of about 17 years. There are 2 takeaways from this. One, I love my father, and the other one being years upon years of And hey, naturally as a child, you're gonna make a few mistakes. And I swore up and down that the Bill Murray Garfield movie was, in fact, peak cinema. I remember watching it for days on end. I was completely in awe. As soon as it finished, rewind the entire thing, start it over while I drew or something. Regardless of the quality of said movie, this fat, grumpy orange tabby had warped my developing mind. And I'm still a fairly huge fan today, and have witnessed the franchise expanding more and more. More cartoons, video games, more films, and then there were those strange years where Garfield became some sort of horror icon. Even a sex symbol at some point. But we ain't gotta talk about that. That's not what this video's about. Last year, Sony Pictures would release a brand new, fully animated Garfield movie during my birthday week of all times. So me, being a vibrant man of 27 years, I wanted to go see it with my family. And in the following hour, something happened. I really wasn't sure how I felt at the time or what was happening on screen, but after the movie and we headed home, I felt numb, and I blacked out for a bit, thinking to myself, what was that? Did I dislike the movie simply because it was new? Do I fear change? Did it not wow me because it was so obviously pandering towards children? Have I outgrown my love for cartoons? Do I not like Garfield anymore? And I came back to reality to find I was chopping up peppers for dinner. The Garfield movie essentially depressed me for the duration of the day. Am I being a bit extravagant? Exaggerating even? Maybe just a little bit, but you know, it's to entertain you. And if you're not entertained, let me cash out y'all $10. You can go get some eggs, find my location, and egg my house. After being able to clear my mind, boy howdy did I have some things to say about the Garfield movie. Which, let me start off by saying this. While I love Garfield with a burning passion, I didn't simply want to see this movie movie because it was a Garfield movie. I was more interested in seeing the movie based on the people making the movie. The movie was directed by Mark Dindal with a screenplay by David Reynolds. Individually, Reynolds has additional writing credits on Mulan, Tarzan, and A Bug's Life, while Dindal directed the incredibly underrated Cats Don't Dance for Warner Brothers. And then years later for Disney, the severely overhated Chicken Little. But together, they were the hilarious duo that brought us Emperor's New Groove. And with those credits under their belts, I had no doubt in my mind that at the very least, the Garfield movie would be wildly hilarious. And getting that first new look at the Garfield movie was a pleasant surprise. As to me, Garfield's new design looked like it took inspiration from the old TV specials, like Here Comes Garfield and Garfield on the Town. But then came the predictable deal breaker. They announced the voice cast. And it was announced that Twitter's favorite punching bag, Chris Pratt, would be providing the voice of Garfield. And this announcement gave way to the idea that Chris Pratt is just in everything. Because around the time of this announcement, we also had the Mario Brothers movie to look forward to, which of course also starred Chris Pratt. And while I get the frustration, I decided to hold my tongue. I like Chris Pratt enough. He managed a halfway decent Mario. He's no Charles Martinet or Captain Lou Albano, but he did his best. However, when you think of Garfield, do you immediately think of Chris Pratt? I just feel like he's far too high energy. Someone who could pull off a lower, more lethargic range would have been way better.
Claire, is that you? Come here, I need you to bring me my cigarettes.
Hey, wait a minute.
But again, I hadn't seen the movie yet, so I held my tongue. Then the official trailers rolled out. And no, the trailers didn't wow me very much, but the clip sure did. And I just really wanted to hold out hope that this would be awesome solely because of the director and writer. In my mind, if this movie did well, we could normalize actual animation directors directing big movies. Like, why did y'all get the Black Panther team to do Space Jam 2? That was dumb. But as you can probably tell by the title of this video, the movie was not awesome. It's not awesome! That's not to say it didn't have its moments. There were a few times when I chuckled. I really wanted to like this movie, but for every pro about the movie, about 50 cons emerged. But hey, let's actually talk about those. Shake your big booty! The opening of the movie shows the retold origins of how John met Garfield. And if you're a Garfield purist, you might have a slight issue with how this was done, but oh my god, a Binky the Clown Easter egg! Over the years, as Garfield grew, so did their little family, as John would eventually adopt a dog and name him Odie. Life seemed pretty great, until he gets swept up in some crazy revenge plot involving an eccentric English cat named Jinx, and
This is Vic, my father.
Did he ever hint at having a father in the comics? Anyways, Jinx has it out for Garfield's dad, as at some point in their past they used to be part of a gang, and during a milk-stealing heist, Jinx got captured, with Vic unable to do anything. During all that time in the pound, Vic never came for her, so reasonably, she was a bit peeved. And she says unless Vic and Garfield can carry out this elaborate milk heist at the local dairy farm, she will continue to hunt them down and eventually murder them. What about Odie, though? He's just kind of there. He could really walk away from all of this and Jinx wouldn't bat an eye. As these estranged family movies tend to go, Garfield's reasonably a bit angry at Vic. But over time, as they plan this milk heist, they grow closer and
Wait a minute! Who are you?
This is...
Otto! Of Otto and Ethel?
Oh, that's right, Otto. I remember him from the comics when he starred in the special with the, Who are you? Otto was one of the former mascots of the local dairy farm, Lactose Farms. He was eventually abandoned by the farm, while they kept his co-mascot and girlfriend, Ethel. And he says he'll help Garfield and crew break into the farm on the condition that they reunite him with Ethel. Isn't this supposed to be a Garfield movie? Why the heck would he care? Okay, it's time for me to stop here and talk about the glaring issue with this movie. Garfield himself. Let's get one thing out of the way. Chris Pratt, awful as Garfield, okay? The energy he brings to this famously lazy character simply doesn't fit. And all of his one-liners and quips get real annoying real fast.
I know tough, Vic. You've obviously never been in an Olive Garden that's run out of breadsticks. Part of me wants to be mad at her for kidnapping us, but you gotta love her energy. Open the door!
He is better suited, better typecasted for energetic, upbeat characters like Emmett from the Lego Movie, even in the Super Mario Brothers movie. That energy paired well enough with a slight Brooklyn accent. But Garfield? You couldn't have picked someone worse. Simply put, the directors made Garfield way too nice in this movie. Now make no mistake, he has had his heartfelt and sentimental moments in the original cartoons, a few comics even. But for an hour-long project called The Garfield Movie, you wanna see Garfield. This isn't Garfield. I can count on my hand maybe 1 or 2 lines in the movie that truly felt like Garfield.
I've never jumped.
And that's why we should go from Sunday to Tuesday.
But the rest of the time, he is too eager, too emotional, too sympathetic, and that's just not who Garfield is. There ain't one scene where he's throttling John or Odie around. He needed more dryness. He needed to be more cynical. And suppose Garfield did have an estranged father in the comics. I can't picture comic Garfield being this openly angry about his father leaving him. He might keep it to himself, but on the outside, he'd be a lot more passive. He'd be a lot more sarcastic. He'd constantly be on a first-name basis with him, dissimilar to how he acts with his mother. Garfield's an unapologetic mama's boy, and I love that for him. Say what you will about the live-action Garfield movie, but Bill Murray, excellent Garfield. He was grumpy, sarcastic, selfish. That's who Garfield is. Even him leaping into action to save Odie during the latter half of the movie. 'Twas all to keep John happy and feeding him. And I don't know, maybe he had grown to like Odie too. Did you know Bill Murray regrets ever being part of those Garfield movies though? Look it up. But then we get to the bit of the movie where the pair fight and they're forced to work out their differences. And then Vic lets it slip, "I never abandon you, son!" And damn, this just made me hate Garfield even more. Vic placed him in a box and ordered him to stay put while he went to search for food. Lil Garfield does the exact opposite and winds up with John. Why are you angry at Vic when we all heard in the flashback, "I'll be right back, Junior"? And no, this is not a case of, oh, he's just a baby, he doesn't know any better, because he is hyper aware of his surroundings, aware of the dangers of cars, how cold the rain is. He's even able to read the menu at the restaurant. Maybe I'm thinking too hard about it, or maybe Garfield's a huge hypocrite. We're at the midpoint of this convoluted story. Why not throw in a new villain out of nowhere? Jinx calls Lactose Farms to warn them of the impending milk theft, catching the attention of Head of Security Marjorie Malone. She is there to be an obstacle and nothing more. Oh, but she says Jiminy Davis in a time of stress. A direct reference to Jim Davis, the creator of Garfield. She catches the crew near the end of the heist, and in one final act of...
Huh?
Vic ditches Garfield and Odie and makes off with the milk. They're sent to the pound, where Garfield thinks to himself, "How could he? He abandoned me again. I trusted him." While coincidentally surrounded by every other cat who's associated with Vic, talking about how Vic would abandon the rest of them too, to make sure his son was okay, to visit his son, to go have dinner with his son. You see where this is going. John finally gets to the pound, rescues Garfield and Odie, and takes them home. And just as Garfield's about to resume his great life, he ruminates on what the other cats in the pound said. One reminiscing on Vic talking about a tree he'd sit in, across from where his son lived, where he'd place a tally on the bark for every time he'd visit. Garfield goes outside and finds the tree. He finally realized his father actually loved him, and in the most convoluted way imaginable, explains to the audience,
Why would he let us get captured at the dairy? He wanted us to get captured. He knew that Jinx wasn't going to let him off the hook. But if we got caught, we'd get sent to the pound, and John would come to get us.
Oh, for the love of, that is the stupidest thing I have ever...
And thusly he leaps into action to rescue his father. In the most creative yet infuriatingly stupid way possible. A couple thousand drone deliveries of food. Vic is saved, the villain is thwarted, and once again Garfield can resume his great... He reunites Otto and Ethel because they were so integral to this story. Then Garfield is able to resume his great life, this time with his father present. Yeah, if you can't already tell, given the choice between Garfield 04 and Garfield 24, well, actually, now that I think about it, they both suffer from the same flaws. A horribly written, horribly unfunny, all over the place story, pretty blasé animation, obnoxious product placement,
Chuck E. Cheese. Wendy's?
You've obviously never been in an Olive Garden.
Apple Jacks, Frosted Flakes, Cocoa Puffs.
You should get on the dating apps. There's Bumble, Tinder, gluten-free singles.
Mind your own business, lady.
and pretty horrible miscasting. The only thing the old version has over the new one is that Bill Murray is a legitimately good Garfield. Garfield has never had a good movie. It's the Fantastic Four of Sunday Funnies adaptations. The story is trying to juggle too much, but if there's anything to appreciate about the Garfield movie, it's that it's anything but predictable in most areas. It's a heist film, but it's also the estranged father rekindling their bond with their child story, but it's also lovers torn apart by circumstances out of their control, fighting to get back to...
Nobody cares! Nobody cares.
By the way, is this even really a Garfield movie? Because there is very little Garfield in the Garfield movie. And I mean that in the way of, yes, while Garfield is the lead role and the movie is called The Garfield Movie, the movie begins with Garfield and ends with Garfield, the world of Garfield is non-existent. You'd think John and Odie would be a bigger part of the story, but they're not. Apart from a Binky the Clown fixture on a cake, yeah, there is very little of Garfield's world in this Garfield movie. During the Mondays montage, Liz makes a cameo and then doesn't exist anywhere else in the movie until the end. But where are the mice? Where's Arlene? Where's Nermal? Oh wait, there he is. Right there at the end of the movie with no lines. And I hope I'm not asking too much here for some Lyman acknowledgement. Like the Garfield show from years ago, acknowledge Lyman. Where is the justice for my boy? But at the end of the day, movies like this are intended for a younger audience. And I can safely say kids will get a huge kick out of this film, while general audiences and casual Garfield fans might get some enjoyment out of it. But if you're a huge Garfield fan like me, 4 out of 10. This lasagna needed more time to cook. If you made it to the end of my ramblings, I want to thank you. Are you a fan of Garfield? Did you see the Garfield movie? Did you like the Garfield movie? Leave your thoughts about it down in the comments and let's talk about it. And if you in fact love the Garfield movie and hate my opinion on it, let me know down there in the comments too. I take all forms of ridicule as well. And being that it's my birthday month, why don't you wish me a happy one by hitting that subscribe button? Be sure to like the video, share, and stay tuned for more cool things to come. Until we meet again, friend.